I call to order this special meeting of the Scottsdale Unified School District Number 48 Governing Board. Today is Tuesday, March 7th, 2023. It is 6 p.m. I ask Vice President Werner to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Start with a roll call from my far right for board members.
Amy Carney.
Zach Lindsay.
Karen Werner.
And I'm Julie Sanowski. We do have a quorum this evening. At this time, we are moving on to 2D, approval of the agenda. I make a motion to move 6A up before superintendent's comments. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Werner. To approve the agenda with that amendment, yes. All in favor, say aye.
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 That motion passes 4-0. Thank you. And at this time.
Madam President?
Yes.
At this time, you need a motion to go into executive session.
Thank you.
Pursuant to ARS
Yep.
38. Okay.
Okay. Pursuant to ARS 38-43103, A1 and A2, I make a motion to go into executive session to consider a complaint filed against the certified teacher pursuant to governing board policy KEB. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor to go into executive session, say aye.
Aye.
That motion passes 4-0. We will move to 105 to go into executive session at this time. We reconvene this special meeting of the Scottsdale Unified School District Governing Board, March 7th, 2023. The time is 6:53 PM. At this time, I would like to make a motion to adjourn our executive session. Is there a second? Seconded by Carney, I believe. In favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0. At this time, we will move on to superintendent comments. Dr. Menzel.
Good evening, President Stanowski, Vice President Werner, and members of the governing board. I'll make my updates brief this evening, given we have still a pretty full agenda. The first thing that I want to do is you might remember earlier in the year, we had made a decision to do what we could as a district to support the Coronado Orchestra in getting to New York. This is a trip that, based on what we've been able to gather, either has never happened or at least hasn't happened in the last 20 years. And so a lot of effort went into raising the funds to make sure our students would be able to have that experience. Due to some unexpected last-minute challenges, we had to call on Michelle Irvin. Hi, Michelle. To step in and conduct the Coronado Orchestra in New York. She rearranged her schedule to go on this trip. Principal Palatucci also rearranged her schedule to go at the last minute to provide chaperone support. I'm just truly impressed by these leaders and their willingness to rearrange their lives so that our Coronado students could have that experience. I don't know what it's like to play on the stage of Carnegie Hall. Michelle now knows what it's like to conduct at Carnegie Hall. And that our students got to witness the Vienna Philharmonic and New York City. For some of our students, it was their first time on an airplane, first time leaving Arizona. And so I just want to say with deep gratitude that I really appreciate you, Michelle and Amy, for being willing to do that for our kids. Second, last night we had our Winter All-District Athletic Banquet Awards, and our 4 board members here were there as well. And it's just always a joy to see our student athletes get celebrated, and I'm looking forward to recognizing the various state championship winners at our March 21st meeting. Like every month, there are a lot of things that we celebrate, and I won't list all of the things that March is known for. For me, it's March Madness and basketball, but really, tomorrow's International Women's Day. And March is Women's History Month, and so we're celebrating that, and we have resources for our staff in regard to Women's History Month. Importantly, this is National School Social Work Week and National School Breakfast Week, and we want to give a shout out to our staff who provide support in social work and in feeding our children each day for school breakfast. And then finally, earlier today, we had the first Teen Town Hall of 2023 at Saguaro High School. And again, our governing board members were there and able to listen to the questions that came from our students. As I was reflecting on the conversation with cabinet afterwards, I'm just truly impressed. When I was in high school, especially the freshmen, I would not have been comfortable asking the kinds of questions that they did and just engaging in really thoughtful dialogue. So I'm truly impressed with the student body that we have here in Scottsdale, the willingness of the board and our leadership to listen to their issues and concerns and to work with them to ensure that they have world-class future-focused learning opportunities. So thank you for being there. Thanks to our friends at Saguaro for hosting us, and we look forward to the upcoming teen town halls before the end of the school year. And that concludes my remarks for this evening.
All right, thank you, Dr. Menzel. At this time, we're going to move on to our information discussion item section of our meeting, and we will start with the Native American Programs update from Ms. Cypress, and I believe Dr. Dodds-Karen, maybe?
Sheila's going to lead the presentation. We're really looking forward to that. And we have made a commitment that we would do these updates twice a year, and so we're really looking forward to the spring update. Sheila.
Thank you. Good evening, board members and Dr. Menzel and everyone in attendance. This is my spring update. We actually kind of just added it this year, so I'm basically just going to go through a real quick presentation of what we do as a program. We offer program highlights and activities, and for our new board members that came on board, these are some of the activities that we pay for out of our grant. We have 2 grants that we get that supports our program for this. So like as the one thing I really wanted to highlight is in the center, as Dr. Menzel has met her Sistine Lewis. She is a former Coronado graduate and is newly crowned Miss Indian Arizona this year. She was Miss Salt River also the year before, so we are very proud of this person. Down below, as you see, there is a Navajo elementary student. She is a jingle dancer, and she was also presented under ESPN for the Super Bowl. So I wanted to showcase her as well, because she's one of our little dancers. And we also have Coronado, where the Native American Club, some of the students made awareness to an important issue that we have across Native American country about the missing and murdered Indian women. So that was a shock to me that they, as young as these individuals are, they know about the important issues out there. The Salt River Pima Indian community came out to talk to our Coronado students about the aquatics presentation, and that is to offer them positions if they wanted to come out there and work. And also if they go on to college, they pretty much still have a job when they come back. So that was another thing that we brought to them. My Navajo elementary students, we brought in a cultural consultant, Miss Esther Nystrom, who did a cultural reading with each of them and did a little activity. One of them, they were making jewelry. Another time, which I didn't find the picture, I couldn't find it on my computer, they made a little keychain that looked like a little piece of corn. And then their last one they did right before we went on our winter break is they made moccasins. So they got to learn how to make little moccasins for themselves. We also partnered with Phoenix Indian Center. They brought in a demonstration of how to make blue corn mush. So we had teachers present also as well, because we did this during lunchtime. And they were talking about these are the foods that we as Native people used to eat. So they got to try it and put some fruit on it. All the kids loved it. We even had extras. I didn't think anybody was going to go get more, and they did. They came and got more. They didn't really care much about the fruit. They cared about the blue corn mush. One of the activities we actually got to take this year is we were able to go to the ASU Student Recharge. We haven't been in years, and then when the pandemic hit, that kind of caused a little rift for us of attending again due to the numbers that they were only allowing. So this year, we took Coronado students and Arcadia students. So I got them a charter bus and bused them from their school sites over to ASU West. And they spent their time in their sessions, and all chaperones went to a different session as well. So they were not intermingled, they went to their own little session, so that was great. We also had Phoenix Indian Center come back, do a beading activity with our high school students. We also had one of our Yaqui students that was teaching her own peers how to make Yaqui flowers. And this was all courses of going through a Native American week that we had back in November. Down, you'll see Arcadia student making a change in the world. As Board President Julie here knows, Gabrielle Nakai was asked to come back again to Washington, D.C., and now she is part of this Making the World Change. So this is also offered from Mrs. Biden as well. So we were pretty excited about her. So hopefully in the fall, we'll have her come back and kind of give you a little more update on all the activities that she's been doing. Our district staff activities, also we have to have PD in our grants. So these are some of the little things that we have put together. The first one we went to was in early September, kind of mid-September, was to the Sparks of Possibility, a focus on Indian education. This was their first year offering it. So I went along with Coronado staff, Ashley Perea, and we were able to take a student. So I took Gabrielle Nakai with us. So we all got to spend a few days there to learn more about Indian education. Ashley and I also went to the National Johnson O'Malley Conference in September in Las Vegas, and we got to meet a few of these wonderful people, colleagues from across the state. So we just had our little picture taken there. National Fatherhood Conference is the one that I always invite our school community specialists to attend due to the fact that they do deal with our Native American families as the forefront of when they come into the school. So I asked them if they'd like to attend this conference couple of years ago, and they have continued coming ever since. They really enjoyed that. This last one we just went to was a Native Wellness Conference, and that talked about different varieties of the wellness, the trauma that our people have gone through, of why even in education to this day that we have a lot of pushback from some families that don't want to be with the education because of what their parents or grandparents have gone through. So we kind of learned a little more. We had learned about suicide, what the things that the kids are doing. The pandemic had made it worse than what it normally is. Alcoholism is a high issue, drug use, and cutting, things like this we hear about, but we've never really experienced. So it was a nice little conference. We felt very spiritual after we got from there, so that was a pretty nice little thing. The first one, our first district, we had a cultural night. It was in November on the 28th. Sorry, Dr. Menzel, I didn't put you in the put. But we had Miss Esther Nystrom. She was the one that did the MC. We had a former Coronado graduate who came in and did the Pledge of Allegiance in the Yaqui language. And then we have various entertainers. We had royalty. We had Miss Indian Arizona. We had Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian Community royalty, ASU royalty. So these are just some of the pictures that I took while we were there, and we were very pleased. I expected only to have maybe 20 people because we had a glitch with notification getting out to the public. So I was like, if I get 10, 20 people, I consider it a success. We actually had 94 people that came. So I'm hoping this coming year, we're going to plan it again and have different entertainers, maybe some of the same. And hopefully, everyone can come to that. And I really wanted to thank Dr. Sawinski and our former board member, Jan Michael Greenberg, that they were the ones that were in attendance and showed support for us. So I wanted to personally thank you for that again. With our Native American Education Department, these are the 2 grants that funds the department. And this is our allocation that we received for the 22-23 school year. Title VI, we got $115,955. Johnson O'Malley, which we just call it JOM for short, we get $9,581.26. So if you think about the pictures that I took before, those things are funding this strictly from our grants. So we were able to do those fun little activities. Our Title VI Indian Education Grant, as you see, gives you the allocation. These are the things that we pay for under this grant. We have an instructional specialist at Arcadia High School that we pay as a full 1.0 position. And we also have a Coronado that's also ISS over at Coronado, but she is funded through the desegregation funds. Just as myself, my salary is also funded under desegregation. So we're able to have at least the 3 of us. We have after-school tutoring provided. Any other school that needs an after-school tutoring for their site for Native American students, all they need to do is reach out, and we'll work with them and get a teacher on campus to get the supplemental for that. We pay for high school class fees. That is anything dealing with art, band, any type of a class that has a fee. We cover that for them. We have high school summer school registration fees as well. We pay for the high school students to attend high school summer school that either need to make up a credit that they've lost, or they need to get ahead, or they need to improve a grade, because a lot of them, when they decide at the last minute, their junior year, I want to go to college, but I have this really bad grade, I want to improve it. We encourage them to do that. We pay for student supplies, and those supply items are kept at Coronado and Arcadia. They're kind of my storage closet, so whenever I need extra stuff, that's where I run to grab stuff for other kids throughout the district. We have we pay for their high school summer school staff. These are the 2 ladies that work within our schools and other teachers that are willing to come help. We pay for their supplementals as well. Cultural field trips, speakers and presenters is also come out of this grant. And then the conferences and things that we go for the PD and program and district staff also comes out of this as well. Our Johnson O'Malley allocation is very little. This is always one that is a very tiny budget, not behest of us, but it's pretty much that comes straight from the feds, so they're the ones that kind of dictate what we're really getting. This one, we were able to supplement them by paying for instrument rentals for some of the students that wanted to take band, that don't have the opportunity or their parents can't afford it. We pay that. We also really encourage sports fees. I know this year, we've had a lot more students participating in sports due to the fact that we can pay that for them. $150, sometimes $25 is too much for them to pay for, so we were able to do that. Dual enrollment, that has been a big push this year, is to get these kids to think about dual enrollment. I've had more kids apply for that this year, so that's another good thing. Academic trips, we were able to fund about 3-4 orchestra students to go to New York. I think they're going, Michelle can help me, I think it's next month or April. Oh, is that the one you just got back from? I'm so lost on my day. Well, I guess they went. So we were able to help them fund that. One of the students who was a Salt River Pima, I actually connected her with somebody on her tribal land, and they paid up front her whole fee. So the rest of it, we were able to split some more for more students. And we also put in supplies for students in case they need some for during the summer. So we do quite a little bit with what little we have. This is our current enrollment student count, and as you can see, we have students in every single one of our school sites. And right now, we are at 489 Native American students across the district. And I broke it out by your elementary, your K-8, middle, high school, and we also have Seoul. Graduation rates, some of you have already seen this, but for the new board members, I wanted to show you from the last, basically the last 5 years of record here, where it has it categorized as Native American. That's what each site was percentage-wise, and underneath is for all students. So as you can see, in some cases, we're actually higher than all students, but, you know, we're also a very small population. 21, 22 is a little bit higher, a little bit low in some areas that I expected, but also, you know, we're just coming out of this pandemic. I'm hoping this next year, our numbers will be a lot better than this. We have current Native American seniors, there's 43. So I'm really, really pushing that. I'm gonna hit that 90% at least at each school site. So I've got my fingers crossed. I wanted to show this is what we looked at as far as our first semester high school grades at Arcadia, Chaparral, Coronado, Desert Mountain, and Saguaro. As you will see on the far left-hand side, those are the grade levels. And then each one it equals to is how many students in each of those grade levels. And then I put a column in for, these were the students that had 2 or more Fs. And I put in there the number of students of each of those. As you can see, even Dr. Dodds Karen and I looked at it, and we noticed that the freshmen, the transition, they're the ones that, as you can see, had the highest mark. But they were also the ones now that, you know, realize that this coming semester is very important. So, and first thing we did is we got with the 2 ladies that are at the sites, and we started talking. They went in, they started really pushing with the kids. I gave them a list of who we really need to start pushing for. We got tutoring, there's additional tutoring time. The ones that are Salt River Native American students, we work with the tribe. They also provide home on-site tribal tutoring, so they go to the homes. So that has been helpful as well, because I had one student that she failed more than half of her classes and contacted them. Also found out the younger sibling was having the same issue, but we found out there was other factors going on within the home that we were not aware of. So that was kind of helpful for them to be there as well. And so right now, we are really pushing for summer school, getting those kids, if they're missing credits, they're missing their grades, get them into summer school. So that's our big push right now. And here is our continued partnerships with the community. We're still working with Native Health, the Phoenix Indian Center, and we also, our new board members probably are not aware, or maybe you are, we have a little Yaqui community right behind Yavapai Elementary, and they have their own little community board. It's called the Penhamo Community Board, and we have reestablished our friendship with them. These are also former graduates of Coronado. So this has been a real big push to kind of, we want to engage all our community members that have a stake in our program. Our next celebration that we're ready for and we're gearing up for is graduation. And as you can see, these are our graduates from last year, and we're really excited, we're happy, we're wanting to see more graduates coming through this year. So now I'm open for any questions that you may have.
Board members, any questions? Board Member Kearney.
Thank you so much for that. So many great details, so I appreciate that. Question, how are you engaging parents? Are you doing anything to help engage the parents and involving them in your program and all that you're doing?
We're actually working on to get together. I want to get the parents back together, because we used to have a meeting with our parents, just kind of giving them insight as to what we're doing, what's going on in the schools. Due to the pandemic, we had to go virtual, and that was hard enough as it was, because some of them that lived on the reservation, the signals weren't coming in through very clear, so we'd lose half of them, and then they come back in, and it just was a big mess. So now that this year is a lot better, I am hoping, and I'm planning this be probably by the end of April, of getting parents back in together to talk to them and tell them, this is what we're looking at allocation funds, these are what we'd like to see done, what would they like to see else coming in here.
Okay.
So that will be another goal that we're going to be working on here, to get them back in here. And we're actually been invited to the Salt River Pima Indian community there during their educational fair. So since we have a lot of students coming in from Salt River, we are holding a booth there, and we're going to talk about our program. We're going to talk about even other programs that are happening, Title I, what they're doing, 21st century programs. So, because a lot of parents don't understand what Title I is, what 21st century is. So this will be a good breakthrough. We get to talk to people, so.
Oh, great. When is that?
That is scheduled for April 7th. It's right before that 3-day weekend. So, you know, they're expecting a lot of people to come to that. It's their first one back since the pandemic. So
Okay,
I'll
great.
be there for 3 hours. So.
Thank you.
Any other comments for Ms. Cypress? No? Okay. I would just like to add what a blessing you have been to our district. I've seen the changes over time and really appreciate it. I know our community appreciates it and the teachers appreciate it, so thank you. Look forward to hearing more about what you're doing.
Thank you.
And we are going to move on to a presentation regarding potential litigation against social media platforms. Ms. McLennan.
Madam President, members of the governing board, Dr. Menzel and Ms. Wagner, it's my honor and my privilege to introduce to the governing board Jojo Tan of the law offices of Joseph Tan. He has represented this board in litigation that is before you later this evening in a later executive session, and he's here tonight to present briefly to the board regarding potential litigation against social media platforms. So, Jojo.
Thank you, Jennifer. I was going to say I'm Joseph Tan and sound all official, but we'll go with Jennifer. No. I am Jojo Tan. Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Menzel, thank you for having me here this evening. I know my time is brief, so we'll be quick here. My name is Jojo Tan, licensed attorney and member in good standing of the State Bar of Arizona. My practice is dedicated almost exclusively to representing governmental entities such as yourself in complex civil litigation, primarily against Fortune 500 companies. Currently, I serve as lead counsel to both the City of Tucson and Pima County in the opioid epidemic. And as you know, I represent school districts against the Juul Vaporizing Company. All in all, my firm's recovered over $100 million for governmental entities in complex civil cases. But we're not here to talk about past victories. We're here to talk about our next battle, and that's social media. More and more research suggests that these algorithms, corporate decisions, and business strategies of companies such as TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Snapchat have contributed to unprecedented rates of anxiety, depression, thoughts of self-harm, body image issues, and suicidal ideation in school-age children throughout the country, including here in Arizona. In short, these companies design their platforms in the way that they know negatively impacts youth mental health in order to boost their profits by maximizing the amount of time that kids spend on their platforms so they can sell more ads. They recommend and promote harmful and sensational content, not all that dissimilar from a lot of adult news content that one might see on a cable news network is kind of the adult version, because they know that's what sells. Well, at least that's what they do in the United States. TikTok, their parent company ByteDance, you may have seen the 60 Minutes episode with Bill Whitaker lately, about 2 months ago now. And they show that ByteDance, which is located in China, what they show to kids under age 14 is educational content, safe scientific experiments they can do at home, museum exhibits. They limit their time on the platform to 40 minutes a day. So when they wake up, you get 40 minutes. You could do it in one sitting. You could do 2, 20, 5, 8, 8, 5. They don't care, but you get 40 minutes. So that's what they do in China. Here they do pretty much the exact opposite, right? So it's no wonder that when they asked a bunch of teens and tweens, a cohort in China, what do you want to be when you grow up? The #1 answer for the most aspirational job was astronaut. Here in the U.S., you guessed it, social media influencer. Right, so let that play out a couple of generations. And, you know, they really do everything they can to keep our kids hooked as long as they possibly can, because they know the longer they're hooked, the more likely they are to engage, to have inflammatory messaging back and forth, and to really promote an unsafe environment. So they do this whole thing while pocketing billions of dollars. And if it sounds familiar, it's not all that dissimilar from other playbooks we've seen, right? These are sophisticated corporations. So there's a metric called CLTV, or customer lifetime value. So in short, if you get a 15-year-old hooked to an addictive product, you're going to have a customer for 60 years. If you get a 60-year-old adult hooked, well, then you likely have a customer for 15 years. So the net present value of adding a new customer, it's worth more to them to go after our kids. So they do, right? So I don't know about you, that's not okay for me. Now, to be clear, this is not about shutting down social media. Social media has some benefits, right? And that's not at all what this is about. This is getting them to stay in their lane, but it's also about providing much needed funding to our public schools to abate this nuisance and to educate our kids about the negative impacts of nonstop chronic social media use. We simply can't ignore mental health of our students. The U.S. Surgeon General recently said that 20% of students aged 13 to 17 now suffer from a mental illness. And I mean, I don't need to tell you about Arizona's issue with educational funding, right? My home state of Mississippi is one ahead of Arizona. So it's never good to be right behind Mississippi in any of these rankings. So rather than ask our finance and budget folks to try to find money that's not there, to try to take it from the arts or take it from the sports or take it from the classroom, why don't we ask the companies who've made billions of dollars off of this harmful product to go ahead and contribute to the solution? Why don't we have more mental health professionals in our schools? And, you know, if you're a child and you receive mental health care in the United States, chances are you're getting it from the public education system. As you know, your teachers do so much more than just teach the reading, writing, and arithmetic. And so, you know, it's not going to be the first case filed like this. You're not going to be going it alone. Seattle Public Schools filed the first case just a couple months ago in January. And then I'm sure you may have seen that Mesa Public Schools filed a lawsuit of its own recently. When Seattle Public Schools filed its lawsuit, I think unsurprisingly, that case received a lot of national media attention. And one commentator, Professor Derek Black from University of South Carolina, stated, "If the evidence that's in this complaint is true, this is one of, if not the most important lawsuit to be filed during my lifetime because it stretches across so many states. This case, though it would have to be replicated elsewhere, is potentially a huge turning point that is equally significant for the entire nation." And the firm that represents Seattle Public Schools, none other than Keller Rohrbach Law Firm, who's the same firm that I work with representing you and Jewel, and that I've teamed up with again for these social media cases. So we're not out replicating other law firms' work. We are the legal team that other people are now replicating. So, you know, in closing, I think some of you may recall in 2021, in a meeting sort of eerily similar to this one, at this very podium, just a few months before he passed away, I stood next to former Arizona Attorney General, my mentor and friend Grant Woods, when he addressed this board about joining the Jewel litigation. And he told you, we're going to do this, we're going to fight, and we want you to be a part of it. And so now Grant can't be here with us today since he passed in October of 2021, but now I'm the one that gets to stand in front of you and offer you this opportunity. You know, we're going to do this, we're going to fight, and we want you to be a part of it. So with that, I'll answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Governing board members, do any of you have questions?
And I would remind the board that
Yes.
we do have an executive session with
Yes, we do.
Mr. Tan as well.
Yes. Vice President Warner.
Is there a cost to the district for this?
There is not. Pure contingency fee model, unless there's a recovery that's acceptable to you, we will bear the burden of the litigation costs. Thank you. That's my favorite question. I should mention that in my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Tan. I think that's it.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah. All right, at this time, we're going to move on to our action items. 5A, tentative approval of maintenance and operations budget for fiscal year 2023-24. Shannon Crozier will be leading this discussion.
Great, thank you. Good evening, Board President Snowski, Vice President Warner, members of the board, Dr. Menzel and guests. Tonight, we are looking at just a tentative approval of the budget for next year. Obviously, we do the budget proposal and adoption in June. But this is just looking at where do we think we'll be for the fiscal year 23-24. We don't have a state budget from the state yet, but looking at where we anticipate we'll be at, so we can start beginning what we need to do for next year, processing contracts, looking at salaries, and getting our general ledger system set up for next year so that our schools can start entering requisitions in a few months and start getting things ready for next year. So as we go through this, part of this has been shown before. We haven't really changed a whole lot from the last couple of looks at this to now. The budget assumptions are the same. Average daily membership reduced by 263. That is based off of what our reduction was for this current year, where we're sitting at right now with our ADM reduction. Estimated inflation of 2% base level, which would put our base level or amount per student at $4,870 and some change. We know that's what the state has to do, at least that amount. I anticipate that'll probably be what it actually ends up being, but again, we don't have anything from the state yet setting those levels, but we know that that's the minimum that has to happen. And then unfortunately, Arizona State retirement is going to increase for us and our employees next year. They had reduced it. This is the exact amount that it was before the reduction, so that'll go up a little bit, and that has a cost to the district of $140,000. This is a slide I haven't done before, and I kind of wanted to show where we were for our estimated budget for this current school year for our ADM, where we were as of January 15th. That's the latest data that we have from the state, and then the changes from how that's impacted this year. So when I stood up here last March and said this is what we think the estimated budget for 22-23 is going to be, or what the ADM we're estimating it be, we put that at a total of $20,028. As of January 15th, that's $20,113. So still down from where we had been. However, the loss wasn't as much as we anticipated. It was only it was a much smaller loss. We're actually up 85 from where we originally budgeted at. So that's a positive. Still a reduction from where we want to be, but not as bad as we anticipated it possibly being. So that is a good part of news. This looks at the student weight count. And again, where we estimated that to be for the 23-24 budget, the top one being where we are as of the 15th of January, and then what we're estimating that change to be for next year. So looking at that ADM reduction of 264, the student weight is always a little bit higher because you have those weights that we get for each of the students depending on if they're K-8, if they're high school, and we get additional weights for special needs students as well as K-3 reading, gifted, and that's really where the big change took place this year to add within the difference of where we're seeing with our student weight for this year, but gifted, and then the new one also being free and reduced lunch. So with that, we're anticipating a student weight count reduction of 324 for next year. And again, we won't know until, with funding being on current year funding, we don't really know where this is gonna land for sure until we get into the school year, and then it fluctuates even within the school year. So at this point, we're basing it off of what do we know has happened in the past and what changes have we seen historically. But it's really this is what we think could possibly happen. This is the same as what we showed within each meeting. Again, where were we for revision 1? That's the budget that we're functioning off of right now. And based off the decisions to grant additional salary increases this current year was based off of revision 1. Where we estimate the budget for FY 23-24 and kind of shows you what that impact is. Teacher experience index went up a little bit. That's good news. That means our teachers have a little bit higher experience than the state average. It's funny how a small percentage change can equate to a lot of money. That's $118,000 more for us, so that's a good direction to head. The M&O override, again, that's based off of, that's 15% of our revenue control limit, so that'll increase some. We are bringing down that budget balance carry forward. This year we had that estimated at 15.3 million, or the actual was 15.3. We're trying to bring that down a little bit, although I think we're almost to a point where we want to keep that flat. And that's at a point of where it's at a good rate. I know that seems like a high dollar amount, but when you look at the overall, what the budget is, it's really not a high percentage. And of course, as we bring that carry forward down, that also then impacts what do we have available the next year for the budget. So made a little bit of a reduction there. So all in all, with the loss in students, the increase in the base level, we anticipate about 1.6 million for next year increase. It's not a whole lot, but it does help. So with that, we start looking at what can we do. With the budget this year, we are at about 1.8 million unallocated. So that's money that we can say, okay, well, let's take that unallocated, we can allocate it out to salaries and program increases for next year. As Amy Goff and I tend to do every single year, although I don't know that there's much more positions we could close, because we have closed a lot of positions the past couple years. But Amy went through, weeded through them again and said, okay, I think there's some more positions. They've just been sitting vacant for multiple years, having to do with transportation, a couple of para positions. And we looked at admin positions as well and said, okay, what can we eliminate? What could be taken out of here? So we picked up a little bit more money there. So that gave us a little bit more to be able to deal with, to be able to do salary increases. So we got to 4.1 million. With the salary increases that Ms. Wilson will be sharing tonight, those totals came up to $3.6 million. That does do 2% raises for our staff, some reclassifications, some changing of positions, some looking at stipends, all of those things comes to about $3.6 million. The state retirement increase of $140,000. And then we set aside each year $250 for program increases. We have to do a RFP for custodial cleaning for next year. I don't know what that will increase, but I anticipate that will increase. Athletic trainers, we thought we were going to have an increase. That will be going to the board this next meeting later in March. It's actually going to be a savings for us, so that's a positive. But then we also know that it's more expensive when we go to the grocery store. It's more expensive for our district when we buy things like paper and toilet paper and supplies to clean our schools and supplies for the classroom. So we also know that we need to have a little bit of money in there to be able to address the fact that stuff just costs more than it used to. And then the last piece that we added on there at the last board meeting was the approval of the general counsel. That had been in our budget. The position was eliminated this school year when our prior counsel left. So we had taken that out of the budget and claimed that as a savings. So now I've got to put that back into the budget. With the increase in our student weight and looking at that might increase more than what we thought it could be for this year originally, we picked up about $173,000. And again, the changes that we were looking at. So all in all, the estimate shows a deficit of $99,000. I never want to see a deficit, but when looking at, we have cash balances in other places. These are all estimates. We know we don't fill every single position. We know that, as people retire or may choose to leave, there might be replaced with somebody who's cheaper, or not cheaper, but less expensive within the budget. That came out wrong. Their position is not, they don't have the experience, and so they're brought in at a lower level. And again, these are all estimates. So with that, knowing we have that higher carry forward, and we have cash accounts, we're comfortable with knowing that within the estimates, we feel that we're pretty close. And again, if it's a little bit over what we anticipated, we have reserves to be able to deal with that. It's a small enough amount that we can adjust and be okay. So with that, I'll open it up for questions.
Governing board members, any questions for Shannon? Board member Kearney.
Thank you, President Sanowski. I just had one question on the general counsel that we're adding. Where are they being paid from?
That would be out of M&O.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? No? Okay. Shannon, I just want to reiterate the value of our experienced teachers. They bring us more money, but they also bring us other great benefits that are not equated to finances with their mentoring and their experience to help our students succeed. So When we discuss this 2% increase, I know that's coming forward. You know, I think I stand very clearly on the fact that our employees do not get paid enough, all of them. And that the rate of inflation is not equal to, it far surpasses the percent increases. So, you know, anything that we can do with incentives and to retain our high-quality individuals in this district, I would suggest that we look at that. Even those ways to, because we've done this with the food services, to pay them for their extra mileage that they're traveling and that kind of stuff. I mean, those types of incentives may help someone continue to decide Scottsdale schools rather than some other school district that they drive through every day to get here.
Absolutely.
Seeing that there are no other questions, at this time, I'd like to make a motion to approve the tentative approval of maintenance and operations budget for fiscal year 2023-24. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That motion passes 4-0. Thank you, Shannon. We're moving on to 5B, action item, approve employee contract language and listed benefits for the school year 2023-24. And Ms. Wilson is before us to answer many questions coming up on these next several items.
Good evening, President Sanowski, members of the board, Dr. Menzel. I'm pleased to come before you with a recommendation to approve employee contract language for our various employee groups for the school year 2023-2024. You have the contract language with red line strikeouts for changes that were made. They were relatively minimal to change the school year. I also have, or we have with us Jennifer McLennan, who did all of that work for us. So I'm here to answer as many questions unless I need Ms. McLennan to pinch hit for
And
me.
I'd like to note that there are 9 separate attachments for these contracts, and the governing board members received these ahead of time in board docs. So they've had a chance to look through them. Any questions on these? Board Member Lindsay, thank you.
11-month admin, do they get vacation days?
President Sanowski, Mr. Lindsay, 11-month assistant principals receive 5 vacation days.
It's not on the contract.
You are correct. It is in the SAA employee agreement.
Okay, so we don't need to fix this?
I would defer to Ms. McLennan to see if we need
Because it's the
to-
only one I noticed that doesn't have it in the.
That's correct.
So, Madam President, Mr. Lindsay, the provisions of the SAA agreement are incorporated into the body of the contract as well as any policies or vacation days that are granted by policies, but we can certainly make that change to make it more clear.
Okay.
Are you recommending that change be added?
It's the only one that doesn't have it, so probably
Yeah,
clean
well-
it up.
Sense.
Good catch. Thank you, Mr. Lindsay.
Any other questions on this particular item? Okay, seeing there are none, I would like to make a motion to approve the employee contract language and listed benefits for the school year 2023-24 as amended, suggested by Board Member Lindsay for the 11-month administrative contract. Is there a second?
Second?
Seconded by Board Member Lindsay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That motion passes 4-0. Thank you. Moving on to C, Ms. Wilson's going to stay up here for this one and a couple more. Approval of the 2023-24 work calendars for administrative, certified, and classified.
Thank you, President Sanowski, members of the board, Dr. Menzel. We are recommending approval of all of our work calendars for employee groups with the exception of the classified work calendar because you spoke about catching some errors and a member of our IBN team caught an error on the classified work calendar. So we'd like to make some edits to those and then bring that back to the March 21st board meeting.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on this particular action item? Seeing that there are none, I would like to make a motion to approve the 2023-24 work calendars for administrative and certified employees. So this is an amendment from the agenda as it's listed. We will not be approving the classified work calendar at this time. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Board Member Lindsay. All in favor to approve as amended, say aye.
Aye.
That motion passes 4-0. And on to 5D, approval of compensation increases for fiscal year 2023-24 for all employee groups, including classified, certified, special service providers, and administration. Dr. Menzel.
So, President Sanowski, members of the governing board, before we ask questions of Alexis and other members, I just want to do a quick reminder that more than a year ago, the board adopted policy HA, which has reestablished the meet and confer process. We have 3 associations that we engage in meet and confer, would be the Scottsdale Education Association, the Scottsdale Administrators Association, and the Scottsdale Support Professionals Association. We've utilized the interest-based negotiation process since that policy was reinstated. And the reason I bring it up is because interest-based negotiation is not like conventional bargaining where each side identifies what it wants and then pounds it out at the table. It really is a collaborative effort because we're on the same team, trying to accomplish a common goal of providing the best educational opportunities we can for our students. And if you think about strategic plan goal number 3, attracting and retaining talent is absolutely essential as part of that effort. And so what you have represented in this recommendation is the outgrowth of many hours of time spent by members of the administration team and representatives from the 3 associations. We do have a group of people that aren't yet represented by an association. Those would be director-level folks, and we've been talking about how do we create something so that they can have their voices heard as well. And so some of the recommendations there are outgrowths of what came out of the conversations through the IBN process, but we really think it's not fair in the long run to have a group that doesn't have a seat at the table. And so that's going forward something that we're committed to putting in place. But I just wanted to acknowledge all of the team members who participated in this process. And I know there's a lot of information here and many questions, so I'm going to turn it back over to Alexis to let her say a few words and then answer any questions you might have.
Dr. Menzel, are we going to acknowledge them by name? Oh, you're going to, okay.
All right, thank you. President Sanowski, members of the board, Dr. Menzel. As Dr. Menzel said, the interspace negotiation process is a collaborative one. Sometimes it's referred to as a win-win. We have interests that are shared, sometimes mutual interest, and then options that are shared. We've had some very passionate discussions, and sometimes we're even able to laugh when we're all around the table, and sometimes enjoy good food. So thank you to everyone who contributed to that. At the end, we come to consensus on the options that are presented. And so I do want to make note that the recommendations that are in front of you for 23-24 are a start. There are some areas that we need to continue to do some work and examination. And before I go into those specific recommendations, I do have all of the names of the people. I was not going to read them all. I was, however, if I may indulge, to have some of the IBN team members that are here tonight stand up and be recognized because we have put in very long hours, very long nights in work together to bring these recommendations forward. So for those of you that are here tonight, I'd ask that you please stand up. Everybody over here too. Thank you. I appreciate it. You do have the names in front of you, and I will go through them quickly. Larissa Beckstead, Dr. Karen Benson, Carrie Blaker, Shannon Crozier, Krista Demetrulius, Lindy Evans, Julie Gildersleeve, Amy Goff, Beth Hindenburg, Dr. Lisa Hirsch, Erin Cadera, Jennifer Liebhaber, Veronica Leeper, Lisa Martinez, Dr. Susan Lugo, Ed Milford, Sheila Miller, Dan Milligan, Anna Patterson, Ira Pincus, Denise Raymond, Dennis Roller, Dr. Melissa Sackos, Brenda Spizak, Grace Stombris, Dr. Michelle Watt, Nan Wilkinson, Becky Williams, and myself. So a lot of hard work took place, and it is with great pleasure that in alignment with Strategic Planning Goal Commitment Area 3.1, utilizing robust recruiting and hiring strategies, And 3.4, supporting employee agency, innovation, and retention by offering a superior compensation package in an environment where employees feel valued and enjoy contributing. That we are making recommendations as outlined in your document, and I will briefly go through some of these. Classified, 2% increase to all classified positions. I want to point out that in your backup documentation for the classified salary placement schedule, that is in place to recognize and try to address compression issues, but also to address employees that have been with Scottsdale Unified for some time. Additionally, there is a separate separate action item coming up that also addresses another classified interest or option. Certified and special service providers, a 2% increase to salary, and we are very grateful that we're also asking for additional compensation increase for consecutive years of experience as certified employee in Scottsdale Unified School District based on full-time equivalency. The breakdown as indicated on the paper, for 0 to 8 years, $1,650, 9 to 14 years, $2,500, 15 years or more, $4,500. This does two things. It gets our starting salary for certified staff to $50,000. And it also recognizes the contributions of our SUSD certified staff and special service providers who have been here for many years, and for many of those years were frozen on the salary. School administration, a 2% increase to current principals and assistant principals. Only 1% of that will be applied to the entry range on the salary. Additional compensation in performance pay in the amount of $1,500. That plan will be recommended at a later date, and that is funded through results-based funding. District level administration, 2% increase to salary. Cabinet or senior level administrators, a $2,000 flat amount added to the salary. For our substitutes, so that we don't have to come back multiple times throughout the year, a 2% increase to their daily rate from $142 to $145 per day. Long-term and permanent substitute would increase from $165 to $169, and we are recommending maintaining the additional $20 for working on Mondays and Fridays. The supplemental salary schedule is a 5% increase and the 2% that is being recommended for other positions, for a total of 7% for athletic, curricular, co-curricular, and supplemental pays. The changes are reclassification of 4 positions that are spelled out before you. Reinstatement of previous positions, and I'd like to point out the first bullet is to add 2 varsity assistant football stipends per school to step 9. That per school was left off. And then hourly pay increases for certified supplemental work that takes place outside of regular duties. So we increase from $25 an hour to $30 an hour for non-core instruction, an increase from $30 to $35 for core instruction, and an increase for our homebound instructors from $30 an hour to $40 an hour. The estimated total fiscal impact is approximately $3.6 million through maintenance and operation funds. Classroom site fund impact is approximately $4.4 million, and then the results-based funding is $121,600. So I'm very happy to bring those recommendations before you and can answer as many questions as possible, but may have to defer to some people in the audience if need be.
Board members, questions?
I have a comment.
Or comments? Go ahead, Vice President Warner.
So I have a comment. I think, whenever we're looking at the budget and all of the money that we're going to spend, our most valued assets are our staff and our teachers, the people that are going to be teaching our children and supporting our children in their education journey. And looking at this, there are some wins and there are some not so great wins that we really have to work on and really look at where we can make some changes so that everyone's taken care of. And I wanted to talk about the sports for a second because, you know, we're always talking about inclusion and belonging. And what sports does is it does just that. So whether you have athletes, girls, boys, badminton, football, whatever it is, you have cheerleaders, you have the band, and they get to participate in something at whatever level they are at. And then you have students that may not necessarily want to participate in sports, but they go and they show up in the stands, and it creates a community, it creates enthusiasm and a sense of pride and a sense of belonging. So I think I'm a smidge disappointed in what was originally, what was requested when it came to supporting our sports, band, orchestra, dance, and all of those. We're at about 2/3 of what our competing districts are when it comes to funding those staff. And when it comes to attracting and retaining teachers, most of our teachers are the ones that are doing this, and they are staying after and putting in the work and contributing to our community and really giving our children that amazing experience. And so while it's a good start, I really hope that we can do better next year. So thank you.
Any other comments? I will just say that, you know, with this small and very inadequate purse that we deal with in public education, I think the IBN process is a smart process because you're not pitting one employee against another employee when ultimately they're working for the best interest of the same children, likely. So I understand that it's much more complicated than a meet and confer process, and I appreciate the fact that it's kind of that consensus, collaboration, win-win situation. So thank you for all of those individuals who've been part of this process. I realize it's kind of a guessing game because we won't have our budget until the legislature passes it for next year. So again, staying open to increases. I do appreciate seeing the increases, and I appreciate the work that's been done with members of this board recently in the past year or so to increase specifically sub-pay. So I look forward to hearing more about how this is going to truly impact retention issues and student engagement issues as well. That's it. Board Member Lindsay.
Just to clarify, on the supplementals going forward, they will be tied into future raises.
Yes, President Sanowski, Board Member Lindsay, we will, the ask was that when we bring recommendations forward, so any increases to certified would also apply to the supplemental.
And go ahead, Board Member Kearney.
Thank you, President Sanowski. Just one area that I'd like to make sure that we're paying attention to moving forward. I know we're moving up our library resource specialist, you know, one small step, but I would like to see more for them for all they're taking on. Some of the schools, you know, some of the schools have a lot of issues with tech. They've taken that on, and I'd like to see us really paying attention to that this upcoming year so that we can make sure that they're adequately compensated for all that they're doing.
Right. Seeing that there are no other comments, I would like to make a motion that we approve the compensation increases for the fiscal year 2023, 2024 for all employee groups, including classified, certified, special service providers, and administration. Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Seconded by Board Member Lindsay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes 4-0. Congratulations. And we will move on to another important task, and that is, that would be E, approval of reclassification of various classified employees, job descriptions, and pay grades for the 2023-24 school year. Alexis.
President Sanowski, members of the board, Dr. Menzel, we are recommending approval of the reclassification of the various job descriptions that you have in front of you, also in alignment with strategic plan goal commitment area 3.1 and 3.4. This is also an additional response for our classified employees, and so the reclassification team met several times to review all of the requests that were made to them. They evaluated these things through a rubric, and you have in front of you, I think at last count, I think it was 17, thank you, items. I would like to point out, there is a slight typo that these, it says July 1, 2024, and it should be July 1, 2023. So the recommendation is for these positions to be reclassified as noted, effective July 1, 2023.
Any questions on this? None. Seeing that there are none, is there a motion to approve the reclassification of, wait, hang on. I do have something I wanted to add, because I was thinking about this. This is something that we've been talking about, these reclassifications of these job assignments, for a couple of years. So the work that's been done, yay, thank you to everyone who participated in this, to all of our classified employees. We can't function without them. And out of respect for this IBN process, you know, I support this, but I realize that this is just a little baby step in where we need to go. We still have employees making $15 an hour for working all day, and that is not providing a reasonable living for themselves or their families. So these proposals for extracurricular and co-curricular compensation, these changes, they're in the right direction, but not, I don't think anyone thinks that this is it, so I appreciate that. It's an initial step. Board member, or, sorry, Dr. Menzel. Board member Menzel.
No, thank you. So I just want to build on that. I think it's a really important point. So the IBN process prioritized what we needed to do on the financial end so that we could get contracts out. There's still some additional work on IBN that's not completed. We've talked about general leave provisions and how that, you know, versus vacation. There's some language there. With respect to SSPA, we've had conversations and made a commitment to talk about a retention payment, but until we can figure out the source of funding, because there's some moving parts with the state, we don't have clarity on that, so we'll be bringing that forward in the future. So this is always a work in progress. Same with supplementals. We had the partial request, so I agree, Vice President Werner. That was a start. It's a good down payment on the commitment, but there's more work to be done. So again, thank you to everyone who's done the work here. We're going to continue to do the work in order to deliver on our promise, but I appreciate that.
May I make a request that with these reclassifications, that we really look at some of these supplemental extracurricular and co-curricular stipends, and we identify what the expectations are to earn that stipend beyond just the work that an employee does, not just, but the work that an employee does as part of their regular job with our district. So identifying what that looks like, because I think anyone who's been in a school can say it's very different from one school to another sometimes with how much support is provided for our students in co-curricular. So I would like that to be something we address next. And also, can we have a clarification between band and, or strings and orchestra that's listed on the academics high school compensation? Because I know they were both listed in this, under a similar block of information. So strings and orchestra. Is there someone here that can,
So,
either, I thought I saw Mr. Slater here too. Yeah, yeah.
just President Sanowski, I would, this particular item is speaking about the reclassification of the classified positions. I just want to make sure
Not
we're
the,
on.
okay.
on
I'm looking
agenda.
at this. Okay, that's fine.
But
If we
no-
can continue
duly
that,
noted.
though. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for that check. Never mind, Michelle, thank you. But if someone could just like get that to me at some point in time, that'd be great, thank you. Because it's listed twice with different amounts. Okay, seeing that there are no other questions or comments, I will ask for a motion to approve the reclassification of various classified employees' job descriptions and pay grades for the 23-24 school year as amended according to Ms. Wilson.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Carney. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes 4-0. Thank you. Okay, we are moving on to Item F, approve the use of the Mojave Educational Services Cooperative Contract for the purchase of architectural services. And I believe Shannon Crozier and is Roger going to be joining you?
Mr. Rayler's here too, if needed, so we have both to answer questions if you have them for the next 4 agenda items. Either Dennis or Shannon can answer the questions.
Super. Governing board members, do you have any questions? You have the documents and the proposals before you. Seeing that there are none, without even getting to the microphone, I'd like to make a motion to approve the use of the Mojave Educational Services Cooperative Contract for the purchase of architectural services. Is there a second?
Second?
Seconded by Board Member Lindsay. All in favor, say aye. That motion passes 4-0. Moving on to G, approve the use of Mojave Educational Services Cooperative Contract for the purchase and installation of a playground at Tavon Elementary School. Date Bang is the proposal. Any questions for Ms. Crozier? Nope. This is the fast part of the meeting. Okay. I make a motion to approve the use of the Mojave Educational Services Cooperative Contract for the purchase and installation of a playground at Tavon Elementary School. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Vice President Werner. All in favor, say aye.
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 I said aye. Aye.
That motion passes 4-0. Thank you. Moving on to H, approve the use of Mojave Educational Services Cooperative Contract for the purchase and installation of a shade structure at Tavon Elementary. Any questions for Dennis or Shannon? I have a question for Dennis. You would be the person to know this because you've been here long enough to know. Those shade structures, I saw that I had a 10-year warranty. Do we ever have issues with those warranties on these particular shade structures?
Typically, storm damage is our biggest problem, but they last a good long time.
Yeah, okay. I saw some exemptions, but I noticed it was like up to 90-mile-per-hour winds and all sorts of stuff that we don't even have here, so. But they last pretty long.
Yes.
Perfect, good, okay. Is there a motion to approve the use of the Mojave Educational Services contract for the purchase and installation of a shade structure at Tavon Elementary?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Vice President Werner. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0. Last action item, the approval of the cooperative agreement between the Interlocal Purchasing System, TIPS, and Scottsdale Unified School District. Shannon.
Board President Snowski, Vice President Warner, members of the board. The district utilizes various cooperative agreements. Generally, our biggest ones are Mojave, State of Arizona. Some of those, TIPS is not one we've used in the past. However, it is one that's used throughout the nation. And the reason we're bringing this forward is we are working on a ridership program where we will be able to have students essentially tap their ID card to get on and off the bus, which will allow our parents the ability to see where the bus is at, which stop their student got off at, and be able to see where students are without that or within that program. We'll also be able to see where students are getting off the bus. So if there's a concern about where a student might have gone from the time they got off the bus, we can be able to say this is exactly where they got off the bus at. So we're excited to be able to move forward towards that process. But in order to do that, one of the vendors that is utilized for that, which we'd like to utilize for a pilot program, has the cards that need to be used to read, and will work with our routing systems to do that. They happen to be on the TIPS cooperative, and so we are asking to be able to use that at cooperative. We've reviewed the contract that they've used to make sure that it's in alignment with our state's procurement rules and what we have to do and the due diligence we have to do as a state that makes sure that that cooperative meets that. And so we are asking to be able to use TIPS. It's not something we think we'll use a great deal of, but we know that for right now, it's something we'd like to be able to utilize to be able to move forward with this transportation program and ridership program.
Thank you, Shannon. I think that program's really cool, by the way.
I'm very excited about it, as is our transportation department. So we hope to have that pilot in progress at Coronado Complex later this spring.
Oh, so we'll be able to give it a run before the beginning of next school year?
That is our goal. We're moving fast and furiously, trying to get this all set up. But we are trying to make sure that we can have that in place, test it out, and then be able to roll it out district-wide, hopefully, the beginning of next year.
Excellent. Board members, do you have any questions for Shannon on this item? Seeing that there are none, I would like to make a motion to approve the cooperative agreement between the Interlocal Purchasing System, TIPS, and Scottsdale Unified School District. Is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Seconded by Vice President Werner. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes 4-0. Excellent. All right, at this time, we are going to move into executive session pursuant to ARS 38431, A3 and A4, for the purpose of obtaining legal advice and providing direction to the attorney for public body regarding resolution of litigation against Jewel Labs Incorporated and potential participation in a multi-district settlement trust. At this time, we are going to, okay. And C, pursuant to ARS 38, same actually, state statute, for the purpose of obtaining legal advice and providing direction to the attorney for the public body regarding initiating litigation against social media platforms. And at this time, I would like to make a motion to move into executive session. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Vice President Werner. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion. We are going to stay here, so the rest of you, good night. You're welcome to come back if you want at the end, but. The time is 8:35 PM, and we are going to reconvene our special meeting this evening. At this time, I'd like to make a motion to end our executive session. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Werner. All in favor to end executive session, say aye.
Aye.
That motion passes 4-0. At this time, we are going to begin with action item 9A, if I'm correct. And Jennifer?
Sure. Madam President, members of the Governing Board, the Governing Board has had an executive session regarding a complaint filed pursuant to Governing Board Policy KEB, and now is the time for the board to make a decision regarding that, the appeal of that complaint under board policy. The board may act to deny the appeal, which would have the cause and effect of upholding the district administration's decision, or the board may uphold the appeal and thereby overturn the district administration's decision. So either one of those motions with any conditions attached are available for you at this time.
All right. Would anyone like to make a motion on this issue?
I'll make a motion to.
Vice President Werner?
Thank you. I'll make a motion to uphold, with condition, uphold the district's decision, adding the condition that the certified teacher apologize to all the students, make a public apology to the students affected, and take ownership what the person did, and really model good behavior and, or model good appropriate behavior by making a public apology to the students that are affected, including the people that filed the KEB complaint.
All right, a motion has been made by Vice President Werner. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Seconded by Board Member Carney. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That motion passes 4-0. Thank you. At this time, we are going to, I would like to make a motion to approve the settlement and release of claims regarding litigation against Jewel Labs Incorporated. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Vice President Werner. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes 4-0 as well. And then lastly, this evening, I would like to make a motion to approve the attorney engagement and contingency fee arrangement and authorization to initiate litigation against social media platforms. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Board Member Lindsay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That motion passes 4-0. Moving on to adjournment for this evening. I would like to make a motion to adjourn this special meeting of the Scottsdale Unified School District Number 48 Governing Board. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Vice President Werner. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes 4-0. The meeting is adjourned at 8:39 PM.